Trying to do something. Hold on. Good morning. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Give me just a moment. Trying to. Didn't work. Disregard. Okay. I was gonna split my tabs, and it didn't work. Okay. Yeah, new hat. Got a new hat and everything. My Indiana Pacers are 2-0 and just beat Cleveland game 1 and 2 in Cleveland. That shit's over. Famous last words. Okay. But I think you can appreciate the change, right? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, in case you've been living under a rock, a second fighter jet has fallen into the ocean, and I happen to think it's a sign. Okay. Not from pilots. Like a lot of people have this mistaken. This isn't the pilots objecting to the mission. This is the enlisted people not doing their job. Okay? Guess whose job it is to store and make immobile an aircraft? Not a pilot. The pilot parks that shit and gets out, walks away. It's not their job to tie it down. Mm-mm. So I made a little joke. Made a little joke about how people are really concerned that we're going to get involved in a war and the Navy's over here throwing fighter jets into the ocean. I take it as a sign, right? And I wanted to point out here's a Trump supporting CEO. Being reduced to making content begging the president to reverse course on these tariffs. I feel like we don't have to sit here and say tariffs are bad, okay? But but tariffs are not good. Tariffs means you, the person purchasing the good, pays more money. Okay? Rem- Remember I said that. When you hear tariff, you as the consumer pay more money. Finn, guess who doesn't pay more money? The people selling that shit to us. Guess what they get to do? Drive up the cost of their goods even further than the tariff would. hmm and also Donald Trump has made enemies of the world over. So not only does everybody's shit cost more money, they also don't want to do business with us. Okay. One of the things we got to make sure we say is when you see empty shelves, do not be shocked. You were warned. We all knew this was coming. Anybody looking for a job? Lawmakers want answers after reporting reveals crippling vacancies at hurricane-prone National Weather Service office. Hmm. Remember to get your vaccines and to generally stay away from other people. Yo, what up, Crush? I think, however, and I kind of wanted to wait a few minutes anyway until we had at least like 10 people in here to talk about how, yes, I am aware India and Pakistan are at war. Okay. One of the things we don't ever do, okay? Look, I get it. I ain't no war hero. Jesus, Crush. How? Ugh. Sorry. Just, it's gonna be fine. I hope. Um, jeez, Crush. I'll be thinking about you. What was I gonna say? Oh, India and Pakistan are at war, and yes, also I did watch the vice president uh talk about how India and Pakistan have been warring forever. And I may not be no fucking war hero or nothing, but let me, I think, who served in the military, who has traveled quite a bit, one thing we don't ever do, we don't accuse nuclear armed countries of warring. Right? They've been warned. They have nukes, idiot. But yeah, India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons. Okay. On May 7th, 2025, India conducted missile strikes on Pakistan, and in Pakistan, the Pakistan claimed Indian strikes killed 26 Pakistani civilians, including children, injured 46 people. India said it targeted terrorist infrastructure, while Pakistan said India targeted civilian areas, including mosques. But as per Indian claims, the mosque which was attacked was situated in Subhan Allah Camp, a hub of Pakistan based jihadist organization Jaish-e-Mohammed. Pakistan retaliated against the Indian strikes. India said Pakistan artillery fire killed 3 civilians. Okay. Yeah. And that's kind of what we've said. You know, when you're in the news, it's like everything feels like an escalation. Now, I want to make sure that we say if we are going to be the vice president of the United States, when we're referring to the Kashmir conflict, okay, we are not we are not calling these warring countries. This is a territorial conflict over a stretch of land, okay, and also there have been 3 wars over this area, the Kashmir Valley. Okay. But again, I wouldn't call people that are in a border conflict warring. I just think that's loose. Yeah, and here's a crack. Okay. ICE tried to raid Chang Chang, a restaurant in DuPont, claiming to be serving an I-9 inspection notice. The agents, both 40-ish men wearing plainclothes and carrying a manila folder and a walkie-talkie, were told by the manager that they needed a warrant. Upon hearing this, the agents said they didn't need a warrant and tried to push past the staff to get to the kitchen workers, but staff didn't budge and the manager ran the agents off, insisting they need a warrant until the agents finally left. No one was detained. Okay? I want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure that we draw a line in the sand and say, hey, you know what's like improper? Calling India and Pakistan warring countries when, yes, they have been in a conflict over the Kashmir Valley. Do you see how it just takes a few more words to explain that they are not warring countries? Warring would imply that they've been fighting, right? They have had conflict, yes. Hundreds of years, yes. Not for hundreds of years, though. Yeah, they have not been on good terms. Hmm. Me too, Zeke. I love Indian and Pakistani food. Hmm. Okay. I my ears were listening to Eat the Rich a little earlier today. Okay. But yeah, I wanna. This is the stuff. This is the good shit. Okay, and there's a reason that they're targeting Venezuelans. Okay. So remember, I've told you that this regime targets the smallest population groups where they expect they won't get a bunch of backlash because that community is not very big and they're not, as a result, very well supported. So what they do, they targeted trans people, right? And so you've seen like multiple executive orders and they're trying to pass legislation banning trans athletes. I just want to point out how powerful my trans friends are when there are 45 of them. Seriously, there's not even that many trans athletes in the United States, and they're making legislation banning them over like 50 people. They must be super powerful. Otherwise, why the fuck are we drafting a bill that affects 50 people in a country of 340 million? Riddle me that, right? So, this regime has targeted trans kids, and not only are they valid and supported, but the goal in targeting trans kids first is you expect to get away with it, right? It's kind of the Niemöller quote, right? First they came for the socialists, right? We'll just replace trans kids at the top, and then they're gonna target the elderly and the poor, right? Because again, they expect the elderly people are not well supported, and poor people, obvious, not well supported, right? Additionally, the Venezuelan communities, like small English is not their first language communities, right? Look up population group by country in the United States, and you will find Venezuela at the bottom. So again, there's a reason they're able to do what they've been doing so far is they are targeting small population groups that are small in size themselves, right? But typically, when you have a small population group, that population group has a less of a support network, right? So know why they're doing what they're doing. It's not because trans kids are a problem. It's not because Venezuelan people are a problem. It's because they see them as weak. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And the reason they're doing that is because they expect to be able to go into these communities and do damage and walk out, right? It's the whole attitude Donald Trump has of being able to do whatever he wants. He said, I could kill someone on Fifth Avenue and nobody'd blink an eye. Okay. But that's what we need. We need more people to stand up and say, you're not. arresting anyone or taking anyone into custody without a warrant. And look what they did. They ran the fuck off. They're scared. And I promise you, someone shows up anywhere I'm working, and keep in mind I work from home, so that would be even weirder. But anybody shows up with a manila envelope and a walkie-talkie in plain clothes, you are no one. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You ain't even dressed the part. Fuck all that. Okay? I decided that the cartoon should be called The Unfuckables. Okay? Um, and one of the things that we focus on is the sort of like sloppiness within this regime. We want to make sure a sloppy Nazi, Stephen Miller, SS, sloppy Schnazi. So yeah, I just want to make sure, okay, that we're using our platform to say, hey, if you're a trans person, I'm fucking here for you, man, girl, they, thems, right? I'm here for you. And also for our Venezuelan friends. Um, I uh, can say that I have a Venezuelan friend. Um, so for those of you that may or may not know, I had a podcast for years covering the Indianapolis Colts, and one of my co-hosts, his name was Mateo Calise. He's from Venezuela. And so I had a podcast for 3 years covering the Indianapolis Colts, where half of the show took place in Venezuela, in the foothills. Mateo was in college, and they elected a far right regime, and that's why our show ended, is because he had to move back in with his parents because of the cost of goods. Hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are just now kind of learning about Stephen Miller. Um, it's unfortunate that anyone has to learn about him. But again, hey, look at what I found. I found a calendar for May. Here we go. Okay. All right. So from the top, we'll talk about the links last. Shop locally and stop essential spending. Cancel subscriptions you don't need. Vote with your wallet. Okay. Download the Goods Unite Us app to make sure your dollars are supporting businesses who support people. Okay. Now know that from May 1st, for a 90-day period, there are protests every single day. And I want to point this shit out. This is what y'all asked for. Remember when this started? We even said, when this all started, we even said it took months of protests twice for South Korea to oust uh its shit president. Okay? So hey, here it is, the May Day movement. Many of you were clamoring for this, right? This is what you wanted. Join the protest. Okay? Okay? So, hey, there's May Day protests, okay? Now, today is May 5th, okay? The next protest is this upcoming Saturday, the March for Democratic Action, and check your local organizations, okay? And then A week, I think it's a week from today, right? Because today's the 7th. Yeah. A week from, so in 3 days on Saturday, there's a March for Democratic Action, right? Keep in mind, May Day protests every day. Saturdays are also Tesla boycotts, right? So Tesla takedowns is what they're calling them. Okay. Sunday, May 11th, Black Mothers March in D.C. So Black Moms March in D.C. on May 11th. Okay. Free our moms and kids uh, next Tuesday. Okay. But in addition to downloading the Goods Unite Us app, okay, in addition to participating in boycott protest and strike. See, I actually think it's worse that Stephen Miller's married and has 3 kids because that means that there are at least 4 other people that have to hear that man speak. Okay, and are picking up shit off of him. That is ingrained in their personality that they'll have forever. That's the trouble. It's not necessarily him. He can just. All right. So one of the things I see. Remember, May Day protests every day. There's the May Day website. Okay. There's March for Democratic Action, the Black Mothers March, the Free Our Moms and Kids. I'm seeing there's a veterans protest on the 14th. Okay. It looks like on the 24th, the Veterans Defending Democracy protest, which is a Saturday. Okay. There's Free Palestine on the 25th. I'll probably be at that. Save Our Trees. I might be at that. The Sunday Star Wars Day. There was no Empire protests. Okay. So yeah, we got us a calendar. Remember, download the Five Calls app. Download Goods Unite Us. Yeah, that we know of. He definitely might have sired some kids. Okay. Anonymous has hacked Global X, the company responsible for these deportation flights. Okay. And remember, if you haven't already, you might consider going into your retirement account and finding out who owns your retirement account. Okay? BlackRock, Vanguard, whatever, and find out if they're investing in Palantir. And if you find out that your retirement's tied to Palantir, you need to get away from that retirement company. That you need to switch. Okay? Take your money. You gotta vote with your wallet. Okay? Every action that we're taking is a conscious move, right? Think about what we've done since we started, in about the 6 months since we started. What have we been talking about every fucking day? Delete Facebook, Threads, and IG off of your phone. Get rid of Messenger and WhatsApp too. Get rid of Twitter. Stop shopping on Amazon. Vote with your wallet. So I took away, first for the record, I saved myself from doom scrolling to death. I was miserable. This regime would have made me fucking miserable if I'd have just stayed on Facebook and Threads and IG and Twitter, fighting a good fight, watching this shit go down. No fucking way. That was a terrible decision and a waste of my time and energy. Okay? Which link, Crush? For Mayday? Oh, the calendar. Fuck. I don't know how. It's such a long calendar. If it's such a long link. If you go to reddit.com/r/protest finder USA, it's at the top. It's actually the top link under the community highlight pin. You can't miss it. It's there. That's one of the reasons we really hadn't um, shown it. is because it hadn't been pinned at the top. But this morning when I opened that page, it was pinned at the top. Okay. And this is what we need, right? So you see me get up here every morning, talk about the news, talk my little shit, make my little jokes and shit. Okay. But you seen at Chang Chang in DuPont, Michigan, you seen the GM, right? Just some guy stood up for his fucking kitchen workers and the ice guys ran off. You see what's going on? They don't have a warrant. They're not dressed for the job. They're going in and expecting to just kidnap someone. Hmm? And traffic them to a foreign country. Remember that I'm telling you what this regime is doing is not fucking deportation. Because this isn't how deportation works. Deportation is a process. You are due process. If you are in the United States, you are considered a persons. That persons is afforded due process. This means you cannot, you cannot, without a warrant, just pick up a person because you don't like the way they look. Okay? Now, have they done this, Jared? Yes. Yes. The President of the United States declared the Alien Enemies Act and sent about 300 people to El Salvador. Uh-huh. And some 4 or 5 thousand people apparently to Guantanamo Bay. I want to make sure I point out Guantanamo Bay is a concentration camp. You see, only it's not supposed to hold that many people, and there's way more people there, and they are all of the same nationality. So that, by definition, would be a concentration camp. And then also CCOT in El Salvador. It's not an open prison. That shit got closed in 2019. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we point out yeah, that's what's happening now, Zeke. That happened yesterday. Um, okay. So the President of the United States ordered thousands of people kidnapped and trafficked out of the country. Okay. Now, the problem specifically in El Salvador is that the president of El Salvador, Bukele, is using those people as a bargaining chip, trying to trade them for political prisoners with Venezuela, who, by the way, has reported that to the ICC. Okay? Yeah. Yes. Yes, Crush. They don't have the authority and get until they unless they you give it to them. Okay? And I want to point out because people are coming to me and they're like, "So you're saying that the ICC sued Donald Trump?" And no, that's not what happened. An organization called Human Rights First sued the Trump administration on behalf of current ICC trial attorney Eric Iverson. Okay? So he just works at the ICC. The uh, the complaint says something to the effect that Donald Trump's stances, right, are making it difficult for him to do his job, and it's not giving him his rights, right? And understand, yeah, or he works for them. Yeah, they're not. The ICC is not party to this lawsuit. Eric Iverson just works for the ICC. Yeah. hmm One of the things I wanted to make sure that we point out that it makes it they gave a lot of credibility up front to Eric Iverson. Fifth generation South Dakotan, American citizen, trial attorney at the ICC, first American to try anyone at the ICC. Um, yeah, yeah. I did like hey, good morning, Canada. And see again, cruelty is the name of the game. Okay. There's a No Kings protest planned for Trump's birthday. But yeah, we got to make sure we get out ahead of that too. Hey, listen, I wasn't in the army. In fact, all the fuck ups I've ever met in my life were in the army. Dead ass. Like all the fucked up people I've ever met, they were in the army. Um, like the people that do dumbass shit. Part of America that's anti-tango. I don't know what. Oh, on the half of Canada. hmm hmm Okay. I wasn't in the army or anything. Okay. But the Army's 250th birthday is on January 14th, and I know that that's also Donald Trump's birthday, but there is not a planned protest for Donald Trump on his birthday. I just want to make sure we throw this out there. Whatever you see on the 14th isn't for Donald Trump. Mm-mm. That's the Army's birthday. All over Facebook telling people to, yeah, I don't get on Facebook. That was the whole point of saying get rid of the shit. Um, yeah. Smith and his wife have been laying low. Yeah, I bet they're under duress, right? Remember, we've got some subreddits that I like to share. Okay, suppress news, 5051, right? Yeah, Obama pics everywhere. There's Protest Finder USA, 5051, suppress news. I also found uplifting news, but a lot of times I feel like they're reaching, and that's not mentally healthy. Okay. Rather have Harris. Yes, she was the most experienced political candidate in history. She worked at all three levels of government. She was wildly experienced. She also had trial experience um, suing people for doing what Elon Musk has done. So she represented an opportunity to hold him accountable before he basically now, I think he's this single highest paid contractor in the US. It's like 90% of the money, right? So the rich get rich, the poor get poor. Yes, somebody's like, she was placed, she was the most, did you not hear a word I said? Friend, she's the most experienced political candidate in U.S. history. She worked at all three levels of government. She was also a trial attorney that sued people for committing the kinds of crimes that Elon commits. She represented, like, holding him accountable. She's more qualified than anyone else. That's like saying, like, Michael Jordan was placed as the best player in the league. Like, no, he was the best player in the league. What are we talking about? Like, what? What? She was the correct person to be president. Yes. Hmm. Yep. Sometimes the right person for the job is just the right person from the job, and sometimes they're already working on your team. Right. Remember, she was part of the last administration. Hmm. And also, Joe Biden was doing an outstanding fucking job as president. And so if you can't live in the, and I want to make sure I'm looking at my chat when I say it, if you can't live in a reality that says Joe Biden was having a hell of a go at president, he was doing pretty fucking good, right? Why wouldn't he want to fucking 4 more years? Okay. And it wasn't until he kind of faltered a little bit that the Democratic Party even had to think about another candidate. It wasn't until he, and right. Well, he wasn't a billionaire, but he was actually broke right before the election. Hmm. He bet it all. Hmm. He didn't win. He cheated. Hmm. He won by about 150,000 votes across 5 states, and there are 4.5 million votes held up. Hmm. Yep. Yep. He cheated. And I want to make sure, you hear it from a white cis male that sits and talks about politics every single day. You don't hear me dumping on Joe Biden. Joe Biden did a great fucking job in office. It wasn't until he faltered behind the podium when he didn't sound like himself. He didn't sound like he was hydrated, like he'd been sleeping 8 hours. He sounded stressed, right? And he has a stutter already. So he sounded kind of like shit a couple speeches. And what happened? The Democratic Party realized we have the best political candidate probably in US history in Kamala Harris. That is the current vice president, that is head and shoulders above other politicians in the United States in terms of experience and what they're capable of and what their actual job was. Yep. Yep. Joe Biden, great fucking president. Kamala Harris, excellent fucking candidate. If you didn't get out and you didn't vote for that, that's fucking wild. That's fucking wild. If you watched this election season, this election cycle, and you voted for the other side, like, tell me one good thing Biden did as president. Oh, boo. It's real easy for me. So one of the major statistics that they keep track of with presidents is the number of veterans, that the number of active duty personnel that perish while you're in office, and Joe Biden had the least active duty personnel die on his watch ever out of all presidents. I think that's a hell of an accomplishment. Hmm. Look at the world we live in. India and Pakistan went to war yesterday. So low CAS would be excellent. Um, we could start with the Chip Act, the PACT Act. I mean, there's a lot of fucking things. That's Donald Trump's fault. Uh huh. Remember, Donald Trump freed 5,000 Al Qaeda. That was Donald Trump's fault. The reason that those people were there Yes, yes. The reason those combatants were there when the U.S. went to pull out is because Donald Trump made a hostage deal. You can look it up. The combatants, the people that killed American soldiers at that particular event, those people were under the orders and influence of the people that Donald Trump let go. Okay, so have I. And I also served in the U.S. military and have cousins that are on active duty that are privy to information that neither of us are. So again, I can say with full fucking confidence, the very people that Donald Trump let go are the very people that organized that attack on that withdrawal. Hmm. That's not negotiable. It's okay. I live in reality. Remember how Donald Trump invited the Taliban to Camp David? I remember. Blocked. Okay. And remember that no matter how it feels living in the United States when you're super fucking humiliated, um, the rest of the world is rejecting this resoundingly. It's not Don is not popular elsewhere. Okay. I went there, Zeke. I'm the one that said like also I served on active duty and my cousins are on active duty right now and they're privy to information that we're not. Even my redneck ass cousins, right? Who their entire language is anti-liberal, right? And they're stupid. It's not my fault. It's Northern Indiana education system. Okay? Uh but even they know, okay? Yeah, you watch Sharknado has some big plans for the ocean. Yeah, I'm on YouTube and Clapper. But yeah, um, one of the things is don't let people distort reality. And then one of the things that I've long time since said is, hey, you gotta be careful. There are a lot of people out here that are living in denial. Denial. And I am not talking about a river in Egypt. Okay? Yes. Yes, Zeke, exactly. Well, I mean, you saw how our conversation was going, where I was like, they said the Afghanistan withdrawal was real bad. And I'm like, right. And that would have been a lot easier to do if Donald Trump hadn't negotiated and let go of 5,000 Al Qaeda, who absolutely negotiated the attack on that withdrawal. And they were like, no, he didn't. I looked it up. And it's like, okay, okay. Like, so did I. Sea Crush. Okay. Yeah, that was why I whipped it out. I waited until the very end, right before I blocked them, where I was like, "Hey, I served in the military. I got cousins on active duty. Like, trust." Those kids are illiberal, right? And they'll tell you, my cousins on active duty in the infantry right now, they'll tell you Marines died because of Donald Trump. Penguins negotiated with Dumpy Pants, want the Sharks gone. See, this is why I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Stephen Miller, they belong in a cartoon. Schloppy Schnatzy is what we should call Stephen Miller because it's SS, right? Because he's like he's SS, SS, like like Nazis, right? Schloppy, Schnazi. I know, it's a mouthful. Angie, did you read that though? They asked Grok if Grok was woke, and woke said, by the definition of woke, I'm attached to facts and reality. Then yes, I'm woke. The problem is that that's the problem. I'm glad we're fleshing out our characters here. We've got President McPoopy Pants, and I want to make sure we point this out because my wife said, "Hey, don't you remember Rugrats when we were kids? They had poopy pants." And I said, "Yeah, but Donald Trump is infatuated with McDonald's, so we should call him President McPoopy Pants." And then Elon Musk is Captain Ketamine. We had to call him Captain because he thinks he's in charge. And captains, while they are usually in charge, they're not in charge. They have a boss. And then, let's see, Stephen Miller, Schloppy Schnazi. Um, Hegseth, we called him because he was a major in the army and he has a drinking problem, like a visible drinking problem that no one will address, like the army. So I think we should call him Major Drinking Problem. And I'm looking for anyone that works in cartoons or stop motion that really badly wants to shut down this regime. I got an idea. You can make probably lots of American dollars. I just want to make sure we get Donald Trump's character correct. I want to make sure that Donald Trump is a baby, but an adult, but a baby. Make sure we do that. Okay. And remember that it's going to be very hard to watch the show because the two main characters, the Elon and Donald Trump, they scream and they do drugs. And they scream some more. Yep, B-roll for Marvel Bad Guys. Yep. Yeah, that's just hilarious. So, like I said, make sure if any of you know cartoonists or people that work in stop motion that are looking for a project. I'm not like trying to be in charge. I just think I have a great idea here. I think one of the ways you silence this regime is comedy and art and satire. hmm And if you make it too highbrow, they won't even think it's about them. And then remember that we call the show's called the Unfuckables. So they're also like revolting, and nobody wants to fucking be around them. Did we talk about that yet, or was that in my brain the whole time? The show's called The Unfuckables, starring President McPoopy Pants, Captain Ketamine, Major Drinking Problem, and Schloppy Schnazi. Okay, just want to make sure we got that out there. What the fuck is going on? Okay, I just want to point this out. Like, I was obsessed my whole. Oh, we forgot cabbage. We forgot. We forgot JD Vance. It's kind of funny that we left him out, though. I think we have to. I think we have to push that vibe, the sort of like JD Vance is left behind, which fits. So I think JD Vance is like a emo Cabbage Patch doll slash voodoo doll that they pass around. Yeah, I'm not. I don't believe in voodoo. I don't think it's real or anything. I just think it would be funny if JD Vance was like a whipping post. You know what I mean? Like some. I thought the voodoo doll that looks like a emo Cabbage Patch Kid. Um, that they just drag around. Like they don't actually use it for anything. They just drag the doll around face. They're holding it by its leg, like it's like they're kids, right? It's a cartoon. We're talking about a cartoon, but they just drag the doll like face down quite a lot, where it's just getting dragged around. Uh huh. Hmm. And then except Gabby said couch or Bob said Gabby couches are his kryptonite. Yeah, so he doesn't do anything, but he starts thrusting his hips whenever he sees a couch of any kind, and they frequently throw him into the couch. And seen a medium predict, yeah, post out 78,000 likes. He's gone before his birthday. Vance takes over for a little bit, then whole new administration by January. Yeah, right. Yeah. So we just got to think of a name for the character. I mean, couch fucker is the most obvious. Because didn't Cabbage Patch Kids have names? Cabbage Patch Couch Fucker? CPCF? Yeah, and it looks like an emo Cabbage Patch Kid that they use as like a, yeah. Hmm. Yep. Good to see everybody. Remember, anytime we get a room full of people, we default to, hey, I know there's a lot going on and it feels like it gets worse every single day. Control what you could control. Focus on getting 8 hours of sleep a night. You probably need to take a nap, drink water, eat right, and exercise. Okay. I advocate for a healthy lifestyle. Anytime I see there's just a bunch of people. All right. The Geo Group, Citizens Bank, you're up. So, hey, if any of you bank with Citizens Bank, they are funding ICE. Largest prison operator in the United States, largest single ICE contractor, the Geo Group. operates a total of 99 facilities, 16 of which are used for ICE detention. It has benefited from Donald Trump's re-election more than any other publicly traded company, with stock prices soaring by more than a third the following day alone. Geo Group doesn't have any retail brands. One of its few financiers, Citizens Financial Group, does. Activists have seen tremendous success by targeting lenders in recent years, as banks including JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, BNP Paribas, SunTrust, and Barclays have already pledged not to lend to private prison companies. There. Citizens Bank. Okay. And they're pretty normal names. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the problem with Couch Fucker is or Couch Lover. I mean, the show's called The Unfuckables. Remember, this isn't something I want kids to watch. J Decay was a Garbage Pail Kid. Yeah, so I found this when I was oh, that's not what it was. I thought it was. Check this out. Here's GPK, find your name. Okay. Yeah. Like Big Mouth on Netflix, yeah, not for kids. Oh, definitely not for kids. Remember, the you got to talk about what is actually happening, right? Okay. What is actually happening? What did Donald Trump and Elon Musk actually do? They do drugs. They scream at people, right? Isn't that what we mostly see Donald Trump doing, is like losing his cool? Elon Musk's the same way, kind of like he has this blow up propensity. Couch pounder. There. Remember, the only thing that JD Vance's Cabbage Patch voodoo doll that largely just gets dragged around has no real purpose, only actually hip thrusts when it sees a couch, and then whoever's carrying the emo garbage pail kid, gar- Cabbage Patch Kid that they just drag around, mostly face down. They just throw it on the couch and it just has a day, you know. These Trump's defying the Colorado judge trying to release Mike Lindell's wife from jail. Oh my God, the My Pillow guy's wife is in jail. What the fuck? But yeah, if you have Citizens Bank, you need to get rid of Citizens Bank. Why? Citizens Bank is one of the major like financiers of the Geo Group who operates prisons, 16 ICE detention centers, okay? Citizens Bank. Human rights groups have called Libya's migrant detention centers horrific and deplorable, and Donald Trump wants to send migrants there on a military flight. Pretty awful to threaten to deport immigrants. He hasn't even said who he plans to deport. At naming like a specific group of people that he plans to do that. But yeah, here's the story. It's the second fighter jet crashes into the ocean. Yeah, I don't know what's going on the USS Harry Truman, but I want to say it's drugs. Yeah. Hey, I want to make sure that we say squint. I want to make sure that we say if you ever get jury duty and a police officer is on trial, know that they don't get any special privileges as a police officer. Um, Qualified immunity sucks. Um, if you commit a crime, you should be convicted of a crime if there's proof. We didn't lose to fighter jets yesterday. I just read the story and posted the article. The USS Harry Truman, about 2 weeks ago, CC, it was under tow, meaning it was being towed around the ship, and they lost control of that aircraft and it fell off the ship. Okay. Yesterday, an aircraft went to land on the USS Truman and the tow hook did not catch. It's called a failed arrestment, which it happens, and it slid off the back of the aircraft. So again, I just want to point out we didn't lose two fighter jets yesterday. We have lost two fighter jets. Uh huh. Every time Vance comes into the scene, he jumps around all the furniture humping. Without Bob, I went a step further and I said largely JD Vance's character doesn't do anything. It doesn't have no function. They don't interact with it, talk to it. They mostly, there's a reason I suggested it be like a pin cushion, right? Like something like a voodoo doll, except voodoo isn't real, right? Where they just are like mean to the doll. They don't talk to it. It doesn't have any purpose. But every now and then they walk past the couch and it moves. Its hips start thrusting. And so they just throw that Cabbage Patch doll that they use as like a pincushion slash whipping post at the couch, and then whatever happens happens. You know, like in cartoons when there's like the circle of dirt and you can't see what's going on in there, you don't know really what's going on. That's what happens. Hmm. Yeah, FA-18. Hmm. The Super Hornet. Yep, just shared the story. Hmm. From NBC News. Hmm. So yeah, we didn't lose two fighter jets yesterday. Okay. But yeah, that is two aircraft in like no time. And again, it's I would say, without having been a pilot in the military or having been part of the crew, um, I take it as a sign. Okay, when multi-million dollar aircraft are literally falling off of aircraft carriers, I think we're done here. That's what I think. Both in one of the two cases, I would call that human error. Yeah. The one that happened on April 28th, it was under tow, meaning it had something hooked to the front of it that was driving the airplane around on the aircraft carrier, and they lost control of it and lost control of the aircraft. Uh-huh. I can imagine where that is like a high stress job, and the guy driving that little cart probably had like 18 people screaming at him while he was trying to park that fucking jet, and that's what happens. And then in terms of the jet landing and the tow hook not catching and a failed arrestment on an aircraft carrier, that happens. That happens. Negative, Dina. No, they didn't throw away a bunch of money. Mm-mm. It is like $70 million worth of aircraft, though. Uh, in about Well, what has actually happened, Cece, is the President of the United States has moved a lot of military assets in position to take out Iran's nuclear enrichment program. And as I've said, that's the plot of the main mission of Top Gun Maverick. And Donald Trump also said he wanted to reopen Alcatraz, and that's The Rock from 1996. And again, this guy is watching shit on TV and then having a conversation with John Vought, and all of a sudden he wants to tariff Hollywood. to the rest of the world, right? They're reporting the jet missed the catch wire. So why not fly back around and attempt to land again? It's a great question. So first of all, you're going slow when you hit the deck. You're going about as slow as that aircraft will go and still fly when you hit the deck. And so often what happens, I can speak on this. Often what happens when the plane comes in really slow and it touches the deck, it sort of bounces. And every now and then, when that plane lands and those wheels hit and bounce, it'll miss the tow hook. The problem is that the plane's not going fast enough, and the pilot isn't fast enough, or the deck isn't long enough for the pilot to power up and fucking achieve lift and fly. And a lot of times, what you'll see is and it looks scary as shit when an aircraft leaves the deck of an aircraft when it takes off normally. Keep in mind, I was aboard the USS Bataan. We had Harriers. Harriers could just take off vertically and fly away. That shit's badass. Okay, but a normal aircraft, they got to get a good run up to get going. And even when they take off, so let's say like this is the deck of the ship going across, right? But it stops, right? When the aircraft actually leaves the deck, it dips before it takes off. It's scary to look at because you're like, oh god, that plane crashed, and like no, it lost a little altitude and then so I know that it's not a great explanation, but yeah, it happens. It should only happen like one out of every bazillion times you land an aircraft. But yeah, no matter how slow you fly an aircraft, it could still bounce when you hit the ground. No matter how nice and easy you set that thing down. I made a video, but I couldn't figure out how to wrap it up. Where I was like, he wants to reopen Alcatraz. Like, okay, this is The Rock from '96, and like, oh, he wants to uh, destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment program. I'm like, okay, Top Gun Maverick. Who are they going to blame for that? Again, I think in terms of the failed arrestment landing from yesterday, uh, the pilot. The pilot? Isn't there like an evil in My Little Pony? I don't think you want to watch that. I don't think you want Donald Trump to watch that. It'll like get ideas. By the way, the thing that I love seeing the most, but he wasn't DI. No. The thing I love seeing the most, okay, is the people who Donald Trump doesn't like that voted for him anyway being directly affected by Donald Trump. So when all of these people that voted for Donald Trump get forcibly uh, kidnapped and trafficked without due process, and they're wearing their MAGA hat on the way out. Like, are you kidding? You'd think at some point you would stop wearing that hat, you know? FA-18s, yeah, those are, you know, those are our awesome airplanes. hmm I want to point out that at least air one of those fighter jets that the USS Harry Truman lost in the ocean was not lost by the pilot. The pilot, once that aircraft is on the ground and something else is attached to the front of it that's driving it around, the pilot's not in it. That dude was getting coffee somewhere, smoking a cigarette. Okay. Trump keeps talking, keeps burying him in a bigger hole. Farmers are gonna get hurt. Oh yeah. I haven't said this. Um, Never seen mega flags. Don't show me flags anymore around here. Real quiet. Yeah. On my way to go get groceries, there's this intersection. In the past, this intersection, I'm turning going away from it, so it's on my left. And the entrance to the property is oddly enough at the corner of the intersection. You should never do that. And for many years, those were Trump flags that were hanging on those flagpoles, a Trump flag and American flag. And I noticed leading up to this election, they took the Trump flag down before the election. And since the election, I noticed they replaced the Trump flag with an Indiana flag. hmm What's is there a movie? We should have him watch The Day Hitler Died. It's interviews with the survivors that talk about the last few days of the Hitler regime when everybody started off of themselves. But I think we posted this. We were talking about, was that from the Cradle? Yeah. Israeli army intel chiefs give final tactical approval for total invasion of Gaza. So they're not even hiding it anymore. They're saying the full part out loud. Hey, thanks. Just going. Yeah. So I wouldn't even call it pilot error the second time when he missed the tow hook. I'd say you fly long enough, you're gonna miss its fucking tow hook. It's just gonna happen. Um, Gosh, I have hundreds of hours flying an airplane, and if I talked to you about every time I landed an aircraft, it felt like it was a different feeling. It's just there's so many things you can't control. The only thing you can control is your airspeed and your tilt of your aircraft, right? And it depends on what kind of aircraft you're flying, whether you want to set down nose first or ass first. But generally speaking, you're setting down ass first. hmm Yeah, Dina, when I went to, it was a thing that made me cry, actually. Made me cry a lot. I cried the whole way home. When I went to the military protest on March 14th here in Indianapolis, I watched a Vietnam veteran. Um, he spoke for a long time. He was a small guy. You know, keep in mind a lot of military service members are great athletes and shit. They're just not very big. And this little bitty guy got up there. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he said, "You know, I was ashamed of my country when I came home from Vietnam, and uh, they protested us, and we joined the protest with them. We protested the war too, uh, you know." And he said he had gotten a degree and worked his whole life, and now he's in his 60s. He's an old man. And he said, because even though he's I want to say he's either black and white, or he's Middle Eastern or Southeast Asian, but he definitely didn't look like just like a white person. Okay, he looked like he could have very well been American Indian. He looked like everything but a white person. Okay, and he said, "I never have been angry at the country, even though they protested when I came home from Vietnam. I wasn't angry. I didn't feel like I was under distress, like I was under duress." And on March 14th, so this is within a couple months ago, at the veterans protest, he spoke and said, "But I'm concerned with this regime to the point where I think I want to flip my American flag upside down, and I want to do it in front of other veterans so that you understand that it's not a gimmick or a game, it's serious when I flip the American flag upside down, as though I'm in distress. It's in distress. America's in distress." And he was a little older, and he had the microphone in his hand, so like a couple people had to help him flip his flag. And then there was another content creator, another liberal from Indiana here, who I tried to reach out to and say like, "Hey, I took a couple nice pictures of you with your flag," and she ignored me. And hey, I just want to say, one of the fucking weird things about the fucking internet is that I try to be kind to everyone. And, for example, if I see a Marine and they're live on TikTok, I get in there, Semper Fi, brother or sister, do or die, whatever. They don't hardly ever respond. And there's someone with a platform on TikTok from Indianapolis that was in full dress uniform, even though she's not on active duty anymore, with an American flag. And she got up there and turned her flag upside down too. And I took pictures, right? Like good pictures. One with her with the flag the right way, and then one kind of halfway turning it, and then one where it was upside down. And I reached out to her. I posted a comment on her TikTok and in her live. So I messaged her two different ways. One, I posted a comment on her live, and I posted where she was talking about that protest. Okay. She's getting back into active duty. She's JAG. She's going to be an attorney on active duty. Okay. She's going to fight this regime, right? She ain't messaged me back. I ain't trying to fuck. I was trying to send her pictures and say, like, hey, here's pictures of you doing this awesome thing in a military uniform. You might want some shots of that. I noticed she didn't have any family or friends with her. She's went in there and did it by herself, right? Hey, I took some pictures here. Like I would want to have those, right? And I just want to throw this out into the ether. And I'm not talking to my audience, like my people. We got to get better at fucking communicating, man. One of the things that is the most depressing things to me is I'm a pretty good communicator. When other people are not good communicators, it drives me up a fucking wall. I actually sit and think about that shit. Like why the fuck did they not talk back to me when I said, like the greeting of the day, like good morning or whatever? Anyway, just want to throw that out there. But yeah, when I was at the March 14th Veterans protest, a Vietnam veteran and a modern era veteran both flipped their American flags upside down. And then there was a real loud guy with a real pretty American flag, and he flipped his too. Um, that was back a couple months ago. But yeah, that's one of the things we fucked this up so bad. So bad. Where we just don't communicate. As a result of not communicating, we are incapable of communicating. Um, Now, I work and have worked in telesales for like over a decade. So I have like a bank of experience literally talking to people who probably don't want to be talking to me, right? But we fucked this up so bad. Like I applied for a head coaching job, right? We had a 2 hour Zoom interview. I think I'm the hire. I sent him a follow up. I haven't heard a fucking word. They still haven't hired a coach. Like, do you know how disrespected I feel? Like, I took a couple hours out of my day for that fucking interview. Now, I get it. I didn't drive all the way up to fucking Wolcott. Do you know how fucking pissed I'd have been if I'd have drove my ass all the way up 25 minutes, 25 miles north of Lafayette, Indiana from Indianapolis? That's an hour and a half, 2 hours one way. And then drive my happy ass all the way back down here, follow up, and they don't follow up, and they don't reply. And then check this shit out. So, probably a little more feasible of a job, but there's a successful high school program close to me that I had sent my resume to. And he reached out. His name's Bill Mallory. He's actually a good coach. Um, but again, I have a job. I got a job. A lot of people that are hitting me up about coaching jobs are looking at a year-old resume. Don't even send an email to up you. Yeah, it's one of the biggest problems I have is the lack of communication in my generation. You just you got to communicate. I don't know how to tell anyone else how to do that. I just do that. Um, and I want to make sure I say I empathize with people that are like fuck people. I don't want to fucking talk to people, man. If I want to talk to them, I talk to them. I understand that. I understand that. But yeah, as I said, like we gotta be better communicators. That shit drives me crazy. It's one of the things I think about. Mm, we don't fucking talk. I mean, it's just like I said over this election. It what did it cost? Everything. My family was willing to sacrifice our relationship so that they could be happy politically. I hope they're happy. I hope this is fun for them. Mhm. When I was little, I was told not to talk about religion or politics. I know I wasn't the only one. Years went by, I could see it was wrong. Good movie story. Veteran helps football high school go to the big leagues. The villains, the recruiter employer never called you back. Veteran changing lives. Miss those Mighty Ducks type movies. Yeah. No, I mean, see, the thing about it is I can never coach another down and I'd be happy because I have two kids that I coached when their senior year in high school that before they met me, when I sat down with them boys, the first time I met them, we sat down, I was like, all right, so where are you going to college? I don't have plans to go to college. Don't have plans to go to college. Are you stupid? What's your GPA? One of them had a 3.86 GPA. And I was like, okay, so you can get good grades. How are your test scores? Good. And you're not going to go to college. It's like school is easy for you. You get good grades and you have good test scores. And he's like, yeah. Why aren't you going to college? Well, we don't have a guidance counselor. What? Now, the other one also didn't plan on going to college, didn't have as good of grades or test scores, but he was a big boy. He's a for real athlete, like 6'2", 200 plus pounds. Came in every morning. Him and his best friend JB and fucking Alex. They're 19, 20 years old now. I can talk about them. Okay? Those kids came in every day for a year at 6 a.m. in the morning and lifted weights 6 days a week, all year round, played sports all year round. And I told them, you're going to go to college and you're going to have nothing but time. And you're going to be so mad that you didn't manage your time better when you graduate from college and you didn't play sports because you're athletes. You look like athletes. You want to play ball. You're never more capable or able than that 18 to 22 range when you're in college. It's just by the time you get around to doing the work, because it's not cool, by the time you get around to doing the work, you won't care what's cool anymore. Well, guess what? Guess what? Didn't even make it a whole year. Didn't make it a whole fucking year before my smart one, by the way. The one with the really good grades and the super high test scores that school is fucking easy for. He reached out and said, okay, okay, I want to be an athlete. I need a workout plan. Really? And the other one reached out, and he's at North Carolina Central. Remember, I told you they got a good football program too. And he said, okay, I want to play sports. What do I do? Like now they got the hang of school. They know they can hang and they can get the grades. Now what do I do? And I tell them, pump that iron. You go in there and hit that iron hard enough, you focus on sleeping and eating and hydrating and exercising and like pumping that iron, they're going to notice. Trust. And anyway, the reason I brought both of them up is because I still talk to them every single day, like we're best friends. Uh, right now, we talk a lot about the Indiana Pacers because they're in the NBA playoffs. But one of the things I want to make sure that I provide for the kids that I coach is a coach for life. Somebody that wants to be a part of your life, not the center, not the focal point of your life, but part. If even just to say, have a great week at school. How are your grades doing? How's dating life? Right? Just so you have somebody that you could fucking talk to, right? That isn't in your class, isn't in your school, didn't go to your high school, right? And so, like I said, I could never coach it down. I already got what I wanted. I got kids that I coached in like, high intensity moments that will still speak with me afterward because I am not a fucking moron, right? Like I kind of have some self control. Um, and I also want to point out that one of the things that I've learned in life is what not to do. And that's what I felt like when I was coaching early in my high school coaching career, early in my coaching career is what not to fucking do. And honestly, if I've learned anything in life, it's what not to fucking do. And if I really sat, and that's the thing I've told my wife this recently, like, don't get to know people. Like, it's okay to fucking know somebody, right? But like, don't get to know them better. Because you're going to find out, like, everyone's a fucking bigot, right? Everybody has some about them that's this. I can't believe this is how you came out, right? But yeah, uh, I got a contact yesterday from a local coach who literally is like, "Oh, I found this email that you sent a year ago. Uh, are you still looking for a coaching job?" And it's just like, well, Crystal, remember that Fox News is an entertainment channel. Fox News is not a news channel. Fox News is an entertainment channel. The more we're able to get that across, the better off we'll all be. So hey, You know how it goes. Eat the rich. Let's get out of here. Okay. Been 90 minutes. Okay. But yeah, it ain't just the program I interviewed with that didn't reach out. It's another program here locally that I applied with that never reached out. And then they reply a year later, oh, hey, I saw this email. Looks like you were still in school. You should be graduated now. Still looking for a job? And it's like, this is the person that's a head coach that was looking for coaches. And I just want to point this out. And I am being this is I don't normally hype myself up, but I'm feeling bad because people are treating me poorly. You will never run into someone trying to get a job from you that has the resume that I have. It'll never happen. Those kids that I'm trying to apply to coach will never have a coach on this level. So I don't understand why these people that are in charge don't communicate well. But I have a feeling it has something to do with the 0 championships that they also possess. Have a good rest of your day.